Hi, my name is Ty Sells, and I'm really excited to be here with Norwich Public Schools today. Totally happy to be talking to the high schoolers and the middle schoolers. I want to thank the Norwich Prevention Council for allowing me to do this. And I'm going to tell you something, I do have to be completely honest with you. Although I'm honored and I'm excited and I'm happy to be in front of these classes, even in this weird format, I'm going to be honest because you'll know if I'm trying to be fake. You're young, you're smart, you're insightful. So if I'm not trying to be real, you'll pick up on that. So to be completely authentic, I got to tell you this, I'm nervous. Even though I've done this for over 30 years, even though I love my job, even though I love being in front of groups and working with them, I got to tell you, I am nervous right now. Whenever a new audience comes into a room, I get nervous. I'm nervous for two reasons. First reason is you guys are cool. And the second reason is I'm not all that cool. So what happens usually is while they're doing the introduction, before I go on, I get to look at the faces, your faces, the faces of the young people in the audience, and I just look for that one face, that one that's smiling, you know, making me feel welcome, kind of saying with their eyes, hey, everything's going to be okay. And that usually backfires because most schools, when they get into my introduction, their faces say very different things. So they say, our speaker today is Ty Sells, and your faces kind of go like this, who? Ty gets to travel all around the world. Hey, good for Ty. Ty is a graduate of the Ohio State University. Wow, we don't care. And finally, they say, I work for this program called Youth International Drug Abuse Prevention Organization. And faces in the audience kind of go like this. Oh, great. Here we go again. Just say no, yada, yada, yada. Thanks, big guy. We've heard this stuff already. So the deal I want to make with you today is really simple. I want us to have fun. I want us to have a good time. So today, I want to be more laid back, talk about some different things, but we're not going to talk about irrelevant statistics, facts, figures, numbers related to alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. We're also not going to do a bunch of scare tactics trying to tell you what these chemicals are going to do to your body. That's the deal I would like to make with you today. I want to have a good time. I want to focus on those things. And there's two reasons why I'm not going to give you all those numbers. The first reason is I don't know them. And the second reason is I don't think they change behavior. What we've learned is just sharing this information doesn't necessarily, even if it's accurate, even if it's down to the T, very scientific and correct, it doesn't change behavior because often to you, the information is irrelevant. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You already know some of this information. So let's show people you've been learning this stuff since 5th grade. You already know some of it. So just shout out some of these answers you already know. Really, real quick, how many chemicals are there in a joint? Just go ahead and shout it out. Yeah, just anybody. Just. All right, cool. Well, if you're like most schools that I work in or most classes, they do shout out answers. One school, a bunch of people just yell out. Most schools, actually, a bunch of people just yell out, a lot. When I say how many chemicals are in a joint, they just go, a lot. I'm like, okay, accurate, but I'm not sure that's what we're going for. Another school, this kid just goes, one. And I'm like, good start. And then finally, my favorite all time, I was in Virginia one time, and I said, how many chemicals, listen to the question again, how many chemicals are in a joint? And this kid goes, 98%. I'm like, dude, are you high right now? Like I wasn't sure what was going on. But here's the thing, I follow up with other questions. I can ask you, I'll let you know there's over 400. Wouldn't it be weird if there was 420? But after you light it, it goes up over to 2,000. Do you know how many cannabinoids are in a joint? Do you know what a cannabinoid is? Is it bad? Doesn't it sound like a breakfast cereal? Chocolatey covered cannabinoids. They're delicious. Right, here's the thing. There's 61 cannabinoids. The thing is, quite often, who cares? A lot of young people hear that information, who cares? The problem is it's accurate, it just doesn't change behavior. You've never seen anybody smoking weed and somebody go up to them and be like, hey man, there's 61 cannabinoids in that. And the guy would be like, oh dude, I better put this out, right? That's not how it works. So I'm not interested in giving all of that stuff to you. What I'm far more interested in talking about is something that helps us change behavior or helps us set people on the path that they can make whatever decisions are right for them. And the way we do that is by the way we treat one another. I think it's far more interesting to talk about and has a much greater appeal, and it actually does behavioral change. See, and I learned this. I learned that the way we treat each other can influence the choices that we make way back when I went to school at the Ohio State University. Back years ago at Ohio State, I studied communications, pretty much because I'm not any good at math, right? And in my communication classes, we had to take speech classes. In our speech classes, we had to do speeches. And one day my teacher comes up to me and she goes, Ty, I want you to talk about something you care about, something that really matters to you, something that's really important. I said, cool, I'm going to talk about the fact that I don't drink. Even though I'm in college at the time, even though I was in college, I'm going to do a whole speech with college students on the fact that I don't use alcohol at all. And see, I thought this was going to be great because it really mattered to me. It was something I believed in. It was helping me out in life. And I thought, well, I'm going to do it, and it's going to be just like speaking or doing speeches in high school. How many of you ever had to do speeches in high school, in middle school? And you know how your friends, they try and hook you up like during question and answer time, and they ask you real easy questions to make you look smart? They're like, what's your name, dude? I thought it was going to be like that in college. But apparently, in college, people are different. Things are a bit different. Like in college, a few people drink. There's like one or two. So anyway, the day of the speech gets there, and I'm still really excited. I can't wait to get up. And I'm so excited. I've even got these charts, these graphs, these grids all set up. I'm even wearing this little drug-free t-shirt. Well, actually, it's a pretty big t-shirt now that I think about it. Shut up. So anyway, I get up and I start doing my presentation. And everything's going great. Like everything's going really well. It seems like everybody's listening. I'm feeling really good about what I'm saying. Then we get to question and answer time. And I think, oh, cool, here's the easy time. We get to question and answer time, and suddenly this dude in the back of the room raises his hand. It throws me off a little bit because I know who he is. His name was Andrew, and he played football at Ohio State years and years and years ago. So I knew who he was, but he wasn't one of my friends. But I still went ahead and called on him. Now I'm going to tell you something. I'm pretty big. But this dude is huge. You know what I'm talking about? He's like one of those guys that when he gets up, he just kind of keeps on getting up. You know what I'm saying? He's got muscles everywhere. He's got no neck. He just kind of pivots like this, right? So I call on this dude. I said, Andrew, you got a question? He's like, yeah, I got a question. I'm like, go. He's like, so you're saying you don't drink? I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been talking about for like 15 minutes. He's like, nah, man, you're saying you don't drink. I'm like, are you wearing a helmet when you play, Andrew? Because I think that's a rule now, right? But he went on to say, he just looked at me and he said, hey, you know what? You must be a real loser then. You must be a real loser. And for the first time ever, I stood in front of this group of college students, people I barely even knew. And I began to question a choice that I had made years and years and years before. I began to think about giving up something I believed in, something that mattered to me, something that was important to me, to try to fit in and blend in and be quote unquote just like everybody else. And at first I wanted to get mad, right? I wanted to get up and get in his face and tell him off, and then I realized he could kill me. So I just sat back down. But after a while I wasn't even mad anymore because I realized Andrew was doing something that we all do every single day. And that's called stereotyping. You guys know what stereotyping is. It's when we make up stuff about other people simply based on our own ignorance. When we don't know enough information about other people, so we just create that information ourselves. See, everything that Andrew did that had fun involved with it had alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs. Everything that he did, every party, every event that he did had alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. And since I didn't drink, I must be a real loser, right? And so he went through something, I'm going to give you a term here, it's called state-dependent learning. And state-dependent learning is when you learn how to do something in an altered state, often you only feel comfortable doing it in that altered state. So Andrew, like many high schoolers and other college students, not just Andrew, but Andrew learned how to socialize, hang out with others, relax with others, go out with others, go to parties with others, learned how to socialize while using alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. So he actually doesn't even know now, he only feels comfortable doing that, socializing, when he's altered. He doesn't know how to do without it. So if he doesn't know how to do without it, and I don't use it, then I must be a real loser. And see, we do this every day. We make up information about people we don't understand every single day. And what I realize is, or people that are just different. And what I realize is the problem isn't that we're different. The problem is when we have the inability to accept the differences of others and the inability to accept that you are different than everybody else, and that's okay. Let me say it again. You are different than everybody else, and that's okay. But the thing is, we go through a training, and this training says that if you're not like everybody else, then you're the one with the problem. If you're not into what everybody else is into, there's something wrong with you. Or if you're just not into what you believe or think everybody else is into. See, a lot of the coalitions I work with do a lot of research on the students in their school districts. And what most all of them find is that you students are really bad predictors of your friend's behavior. So you think that the issues, although we do want to work on whatever the issues are related to alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, or other drugs, are far greater than they actually are. See, in reality, most of you are still making really good choices when it comes to alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Even marijuana, you're still making choices that are at lower risk or abstaining than the media would have you believe or you would have each other believe, right? So what will happen is you begin to believe this, and then if you're not doing those same behaviors, even if they're not accurate, you begin to feel like there's something wrong with you. And so what I see is because of this training, every single day, young people giving up things they believe in, things that make them unique, things that make them special, or things that they care about, they give those up to try to fit in and be quote unquote just like everybody else. And everybody else that doesn't actually exist. So they're trying to be just like what they perceive other people to be involved with, even though that may not be accurate. And they do this because we go through a training. And the training says that if you're not like everybody else, then there's something wrong with you, right? And the training is based on the fact that we're different. And the scary part is we're all different. There are too many ways that we are different. We're never going to be, quote unquote, just like everybody else. There are so many, physically, obviously, we're different. Short people, tall people, fat people, skinny people, long hair, short hair, different color eyes, different color skin. Silly little ways, like how many of you have a birthmark of some sort, okay? How many have hair on your toes? All right, okay, don't worry about that. Here's the thing. Physically, we are different. But every single day, we're sold this ideal of what we're supposed to look like. We get messages through the internet, through media, through our phones, through the different apps that we use. Every single day we receive these messages of what we're supposed to look like. And what we find out is that it has an impact on us whether we believe it or not. Here's what I know. If I were to be there right now and I were to give each of you a piece of paper and I said, you have 60 seconds to write down everything you love about yourself physically, most of you would say, I don't need 60 seconds. If I said, cool, turn the piece of paper over and now write down everything you wish you could change, most of you would say, I need more time. See, physically you're different, but every single day we feel bad about ourselves just because we don't look like these images that are being sold to us. And the scary part is these images aren't real. They've been airbrushed, digitally altered, surgically enhanced, but we feel bad about who we are because we don't measure up to these fictional characters. Physically, you're beautiful. Physically, you're different, and that's okay. Philosophically, we're different as well. What we think and what we believe matters. The way we believe, or the things we believe in that are important to us, we don't have to give those up to fit in. I'll give you a couple examples. So religion is an example of a philosophical difference. Like I was raised Catholic, right? And I would go to church every single Sunday with my mom. Now I'm going to tell you this about myself. I am 6'1", 211 pounds. Shut up. Right now my mom, she's 4'11 and a half. But no matter how big I get, no matter how little she'd stay, I would always just be her little baby, right? So what would happen is we would go to church, we would go to breakfast often before church. Come out of breakfast, I have food right here on my face. What's my mom do? What's your mom do when you got food on your face? That's right. She licked her thumb and she wiped it on my face, which now during this COVID time is a criminal act. You have a reason to stop it. But she licked it, wiped it. I'm like, Mom, you're spitting on me, right? We can't do this. But we go on to church. And in church, in the Catholic Church, some of you may know this, we have a set routine. That means we sit when everybody else sits. We stand when everybody else stands. We kneel when everybody else kneels. We say amen when everybody else says amen. Now, we don't know this routine at first. Like when I was a little kid, I thought the prayer was, Our Father, who art in heaven, how do you know my name, right? But over time, I learned the routine, right? I learned the routine. So I would go to that church, I'd sit, stand, kneel, say amen when everybody else did. Philosophically, we're different. My best friend is a guy named Rodney. Rodney's a different religion. Different race, has different philosophical beliefs when it comes to faith. When I was in high school, Rodney invited me to go to his church. Now the thing was, I had been trained this way. I believed this is what everybody did. And so when Rodney invited me, I'm sure, I know what we do at church, let's go. We got to his church was different, right? Preacher's up front preaching, you know what I'm saying? Sweat coming off his head, he's yelling, screaming. I looked at Rodney, I'm like, Our guy doesn't do this, right? Somebody just stands up in the back and goes, amen, right? I looked at Rodney, I'm like, did you hear that? That dude said amen, nobody else said amen. Rodney looked at me like, you're an idiot, aren't you, right? Here's the thing, philosophically, we're different. I made the choice to be drug-free back when I was in 7th grade. Right? The thing I believed in was making this choice to be drug-free. Now, it's not a great story. We had a speaker come in, talk to the whole school. They talk about being drug-free, share all these messages. They give us a pledge, and they invited us to sign this pledge. When I say invited, I mean they made us all sign the pledge. So I'm in 7th grade. I signed. I'm like, cool, I'm drug-free. But it made sense to me. I'm a simple person, and that choice seemed like a simple choice. We're not going anywhere. Everybody in the school seemed like they were drug-free. So you go on to high school. By the time I get to high school, some of my friends are making different choices, but it's okay because of my involvement in this program, cool things are already happening for me. So the fact that I stayed involved with youth, and the fact that I stayed committed to this choice to be drug-free, I was getting these really cool opportunities that were happening so I could hold on to it. By the time I was a senior, it actually became legal for me to drink. So I had to make a choice because at 18, the law back then was at 18 you could actually drink. At 18, I could actually legally drink. So I had to make the choice at 18, do I want to now begin legally drinking or do I want to maintain this lifestyle of being drug-free? Right? So I chose because of the cool things that were happening in my life because of that choice. Getting to travel, getting to represent some program, getting to talk to young people already at a very young age about my choice to be drug-free. I didn't want to give that up. And it fit my lifestyle. Now I'm 52 years old, right? I already talked to you about the pushback I got in college, but I still held on to that choice. And now I'm 52 years old. I don't smoke, drink, use tobacco, alcohol, any other type of drug. Now this doesn't make me better than anybody else, and it doesn't even make me right. But what it was a choice that I made that was right for me. And I never had to give that up to try to fit in and blend in and be just like everybody else. What you believe matters. Philosophically, we're different. Now, I will give you this caveat. If you believe someone else should be hurt, oppressed, or marginalized simply because they're different, you might want to rethink that. If you think someone else needs to be hurt, oppressed, or marginalized for you to be successful simply because they're different, you might want to rethink that. Not even on some moral background, even though you're invited to use your morals on this. But the thought is, if they should be hurt, marginalized, or oppressed for you to be successful, what that same logic means is who should be hurt, marginalized, and oppressed for them to be successful? You. So that type of logic doesn't really work. So if it's a philosophical belief that's good for you, right for you, helps you be stronger, and doesn't hurt others, don't give that up to try to fit in and blend in and be just like everybody else. Last way that we're different is individually. This is my favorite because we're all completely different. I'm different than everybody watching this video right now. We're different in a lot of ways. How many of you are like really into physical fitness? Run, walk, bike, jog. Some of you I know take it too far. Like you eat salads at restaurants very specifically. Like I'll have croutons and dressing in the other room. You know, here's the thing. I'm not really into all that stuff, right? I'm not, I know you're shocked, but I'm not really all this. Now I have lifted weights, and I particularly like the bench because you can lay down while you do that one. You know, it's like lift, nap, you know, it's pretty cool. I'm a TV guy. I love television. I like to flick through the channels with my remote. Here's the sick part though. If the batteries in my remote die, that's pretty much what I'm gonna watch the rest of the day. It's like, what are you gonna do? Batteries are dead. Just me and Dora the Explorer the rest of the afternoon, right? Swipe or no swipe. And then Diego, he comes along with his rescue pack thinking he's better than everybody else. And obviously there's Phineas and Ferb. Hey guys, we're getting sidetracked. Let's get back to what we're talking about. We're different. Individually, we're different. We're different in a lot of ways. I love sports. I love every sport imaginable. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, karate. Now I don't play sports. I just like watching them because to play them you have to run, you know, and I don't run a lot. Like I got these new tennis shoes and my friends are like, how do those shoes feel when you run in them? And I just go, surprised, right? I just don't run a lot, but I do like watching every sport, and it's a bit of a sickness too. When I first started traveling, I couldn't afford cable. So I would go stay in hotels had cable had ESPN, ESPN had football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, karate, everything. I loved checking this out. As a matter of fact, the first year I ever traveled, I go to my room in upstate New York. I go to my room. I check into the room. The only thing that was on ESPN, there was only one ESPN at the time, was a lumberjack competition, right? These guys race to chop down trees and they're running on logs. Here's the freaky part. I started cheering for one of the lumberjacks, right? I'm like, Jean-Luc, go. Like, I love sports. I love all of them. Some of you don't care about sports. Like, that's mind-blowing to me. I have friends that when Ohio State wins championships or big games, I call my friends and I say, we won. They're like, when did you join the team, right? They just don't care. Some of you may be that person, just doesn't care anything about sports. And some of you are into stuff that I cannot stand, that I just don't, I don't even understand it. Some of you into something called shopping, right? Do we have any shoppers in our audience? I know you're not raising your hands because you're like, shopping. He said shop. Here's the thing. I hate shopping. I'm like that little kid. Remember a little kid and your parents would take you someplace boring like a bank and you were so bored you couldn't even maintain your own body weight. You were just walking around the bank like, Mom. She's just leading you around by that one arm going, get up. You're like, I can't. I'm too bored. I'm like that now. I could be having the worst day of my life, but or the best day of my life, but as soon as I get to the mall, I'm just like, and there's why they have those benches there at the mall, and it's just me and a bunch of 70-year-old dudes just hanging out there, right? I just hate shopping. Some of you love it, but don't lie. Even the ones that love it, when you were younger, you used to hate shopping. Remember you go to the mall, you get so bored that you would invent your own games, like you would go and hide in the shirt racks, right? I know you did. We all did. You know, your teacher probably did. We all did it. I know this for a fact. I'll tell you this, I know for a fact because I'm a dad. I'm a father, so I've seen it happen firsthand. I'll tell you about it. I became a father May 20th, 2003, 8:20 in the evening. I became the father of a beautiful baby boy named Keegan. And then at 8:21, I became the father of a beautiful baby boy named Tanner. And then at 8:22, I became the father of a beautiful baby girl named Carly, right? And you guys like, dude, triplets? That's a litter, right? Yeah, so I had these 3 kids, you know, run around home. That's not even the crazy part. I am 52 years old, and 3 years ago, I became the father of a now 3-year-old little girl named Parker. So I've made, you know, some different choices. But here's the thing. I would take them to the mall, and one time, I'm not proud of this, when the triplets were younger, I took them to the mall, and I couldn't find one of my kids, and my first response was, well, I have 3. No, here's the thing. So I couldn't find one of my kids, and so I'm in the mall in this shop looking for him, and then I look over, and there's a woman standing by a shirt rack, and one of the shirts started going, pick me, pick me. I'm like, oh, I think we found him, right? He's the gifted one, little genius. But here's the deal. Some of you love shopping. I hate it. Some of you hate sports. I love them. Some of you work out. Some of you eat right. I don't do any of that stuff. The problem has never been that we're different. The problem is the inability to accept the differences of others and the inability to accept that you're different than everybody else, and that's okay. Now, the deal with this training is once we've been trained long enough, we can get stuck, and you don't even know you're being trained. That's what we have to be intentional about. That's where we have to be alert and ready to pay attention. You don't even know you're going through this training. Like, let's do a survey real quick to show you that you can be trained without even knowing it, right? So I'm going to need all the guys in the audience. Fellas, I'm going to ask you a question that has a one-word answer. I'm going to ask all the guys here a question that has a one-word answer, and all you have to do is shout out the answer. Guys, can you handle that? I'm assuming we're on a camera. I can't hear you. But here, guys, can you handle that? So I'm going to ask you a question, has a one-word answer. All you have to do is shout out the answer. This shows how you can be trained without even knowing it. So fellas, you got to be serious, though, because this is a scientific experiment. Fellas, you walk into a men's room, all right? There are 3 urinals against the back wall in there. There's no stalls in there, just 3 urinals. One on the left, one on the middle, one on the right, right? You walk in, someone's standing at the left, middle and the right are wide open. Which do you use? Right, right? Okay, so I know what you said because every school has always said it. And ladies, right now, I know you're thinking, freaks, but check this out. That's not even the weird part. Fellas, go in the exact same restroom. Someone's standing at the left, someone's standing at the right, middle's wide open. Do you go or do you wait? You wait, right? We've been trained. Now, nobody told us this stuff. Nobody shared us. Nobody set us down and said, son, I'd like to talk to you about the birds and the bees and, well, men's bathroom urinals, right? We learn this by watching other people. And it's not just the guys that are trained. This is for everybody. Check this out. This is for everybody. Stay with me. You've been trained stupid things, like you've been trained how to ride an elevator. So stay with me. Just shout out the answer. All of you, one-word answers. Step on an elevator, right? You step on a crowded elevator. What do you look at? What are you looking at? Lights, buttons, your phone. You're staring at all these things. Everybody's saying, you're not talking to the other people around you. You're just looking right ahead at this other human beings, living, sentient beings right around you, but you just keep looking dead ahead, right? If you don't believe me that we're trained to ride an elevator, try this sometime. Simply step on a crowded elevator. That's all I want you to do is just step on a crowded elevator and then just face the wrong direction. If you don't believe that, try this. Get on an empty elevator and then just sit in the middle of the floor, right? The elevator starts to go up, stops at like the second or third floor. Somebody goes to get on, like, no, that's cool. You can even be nice. Like, nah, I'm just doing an experiment. They're like, nah, I'll take the stairs. It's good. We've been trained, right? And this training tells us that if you're not like everybody else, then there's something wrong with you. And this training makes us do a few things I'm not really proud of. And I wish I could come in here and tell you how you were trained, but the fact of the matter is I was trained too, right? Because we've gone through the stuff that if you're different, it's a problem, this training makes us treat people in ways that aren't conducive to making the best choices or the best lives that they can lead, or letting us do that because of our need to fit in. And we perpetuate this training. We just keep it going. So first we didn't even know we're being trained, and now we're keeping it going without even knowing it. And again, it makes us do some things I'm not really proud of. When I was 16 years old, I got my driver's license. I went to the mall, not to shop, but just to hang out with a bunch of my friends. And while I'm at the mall, I see this guy that goes walking past us. And I'm going to describe him to you. Now try to understand, this is 36 years ago, right? So this guy goes walking by us. We're hanging out at the mall. This guy goes walking by. I'm going to describe what he's wearing. He had on these black boots that came up to his knees. He had denim boots tucked in, or denim pants tucked into those boots with rips and tears all through them. He had a belt with a really big belt buckle, like a World Wrestling Federation type, or World Wrestling Entertainment belt right there, belt buckle right there. He had a t-shirt tucked in, a leather jacket over it with loops and chains all through it. He had an earring, and he had a chain that went from his ear to his nose. See, and if I can predict what you guys have done, people have a reaction to when I say that. See, virtually every school I've ever been in, they have the same reaction. I'll be talking, I'll say, hey, they on black boots. I'm like, yeah. People wear boots. Denim pants tucked into those boots. Yeah, we call those jeans. They had on a belt. Yeah, that's how we keep our jeans up. T-shirt tucked in, leather jacket, loops and chains. Okay, had an earring, got it. Had a nose ring, got it. Chain that goes from the ear to the nose. And that's like, oh, that's too much. That's too much. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the training. If you had a reaction to that, it's because you think there's a limit, there's some line, and their difference became too much for you. He also had a mohawk, his hair was painted red, and he just keeps walking past us. Now I see this guy, and I do what so many of you did, or so many of these other audiences have done. I start judging him. I start making fun of him. I start cracking jokes. I start putting him down. And you know what? My friends start cracking up laughing. And you know what else? It felt good. You know what else? It was easy. It was easy to get them to think more of me while I made him feel like less. It was easy to build myself up simply by tearing him down. He walks on his way, acts like he doesn't hear us. At the end of the evening, I say goodbye to my friends. As I say goodbye to my friends, I start walking out to my car. As I'm walking out to my car by myself, who do you think I see? This dude, right? But this time, he's got a bunch of his friends with him. And they start yelling stuff at me as I'm running to my car, right? I get in my car, I lock the doors, I start to drive off, and I have three major revelations. First one was this, is I was scared and I didn't like the way it felt. Second one was I was just doing the same thing to him. Third, and most importantly, he didn't like it either. Now, at 16 years old, having these three major revelations, did I quit putting other people down simply because they're different? No. You know why? Because I lack the courage to do it. See, any coward can surround themselves with people that look like them, think like them, act like them, talk like them, and make fun of those that aren't like them. Any coward can go online and tear people's lives apart anonymously. Any coward can put someone down that's different from them and get other people to cheer in. It takes courage to reach out to somebody that's not like you. It takes courage to stand up for somebody that's not like you. It takes courage sometimes just not to join in when your friends are doing what you know is wrong. And I'm going to say it again, what you know is wrong. See, we have this little thing inside of us that lets us know when something's going on that's counter to what we believe, to what we philosophically believe, to the things that are important to us. We will physically feel that this is wrong, and in that moment, you get the choice to say, do I have the courage to do what I believe, to do what matters, to stand up, or do I just let this happen? And a lot of us sadly don't have that courage. If I could give you anything, just hand it to you, it would be that courage. Right? But we've gone through this training. The training says that, and so it makes it more and more difficult to find that courage within us. See, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if somebody's been picked on, teased, ostracized, made fun of their entire school careers, if that's all they've ever been through, then they're going to want to try to find ways to fit in. Any coward can go online and tear somebody else's life apart anonymously without them even. It takes courage to reach out to somebody that's not like you. It takes courage to stand up for somebody that's not like you, and it takes courage sometimes just not to join in when your friends are doing what you know is wrong. That's one thing the training makes us do. That's one thing the training makes us do. Here's another. And I don't know if it's better or worse or the same or whatever. But again, I experienced this. I was speaking at a school in upstate New York. There were over 2,000 people in the audience, and we were talking about cliques. You guys know what cliques are, right? That's where we group together based on similar interests or whatever. So we're talking about these cliques. And this young man comes up to me afterwards. So 2,000 people leave, and this one young man walks up. He says, "Hey, Mr. Sells, you forgot me." I said, "Nah, man, I've never been to the school before. I couldn't have met you, therefore I could have never forgotten you." He goes, No. You were talking about these cliques and all these different groups. And man, I don't really fit into any of those groups. And at lunch, I usually just sit by myself, and people don't usually talk to me, and I don't really care. I just know there's other people out there like me, and you forgot. I said, "Yeah, man, my bad. I'm sorry. I did forget." And as I was forgetting him, I was remembering the face of this kid that was in my 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade classes. The face of a young man that sat by himself in a crowded cafeteria every single school day. And what I can't remember is why. I know he looked differently than some people. I know he dressed differently than some people. But I, like everybody else, just walked past him and left him sitting alone. And I know you guys are thinking, "Hey, dude, earlier in the video, we were like having some fun, and now it's kind of sad." I'm going to get back to having fun. But I want us to realize this is a serious topic. The way we treat people can affect the choices that they make. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that if somebody's been picked on, teased, ostracized, made fun of their entire school careers, and then they're given the chance to be accepted by smoking this or that, drinking this or that, or acting out in some way, they're probably going to take that chance. Not because they want to, but because we actually need to. We have a biological need to belong, and we'll do things sometimes, even if it hurts us, to try to fit in and blend in and be, again, just like everybody else. But here's the thing. Here's the silver lining. If we have the ability to tear people down, we must have the ability to do what? Build them up. And what I would argue is if we spent the same energy that we do making fun of each other, ripping on each other, making jokes about each other, if we spent the same energy that we do tearing each other down into building people up, then people will feel a part of the community. They will feel accepted. They will feel like they belong. And if you feel a part of something, now you're no longer worried about fitting in. You're just worried about making the choices that are best for you. And that's the power you have. And that's the thing. You have all the teachers in your schools, this great prevention council that's brought me in, all the administrators, they're doing the best they can to provide a safe, and I promise this to you. Even if you don't always agree with their style, every one of them is committed to giving you a safe learning environment, giving you a safer community so that you can thrive. Every single one of those people are doing it the way that they know best. But even that being said, they don't have half the power you have to build the community within that school. They don't have half the power that you have with those others. See, I get to work with adults a lot. And I speak to adults, a lot of teacher in-services after working with their students. And I ask adults, I said, "How did you feel about being in middle and high school?" And most all of them say one of two things. Most all of them say they either loved it or they hated it. There's not a lot of in between. I either loved it or I hated it. But when I ask them why did you love it or why did you hate it? The answer is always the same. It's never how nice the school facility was. It's never their grades. It's never how cool the coaches were, the teachers were. It's never if they had a swimming pool or a nice facility. Almost 100% of the time when I ask them why did they love it or why did they hate it, the answer is how I was treated by the other students. You have a power to do something here. You have a power to make sure that all the students in your community feel like they are a part of something, feel accepted. You have the power to support them making the decisions that are best for them because they already fit in. That's a power that I can't make you do that, but that's a power that I hope all of you choose to exercise to build this community. It's also probably the #1 way that we can help keep our teens, our peers, healthy and safe, is if they already feel a part of something and their choices now are limited to just what's the next thing that's good for me. And that comes from you guys. That's what the training makes us do. Now the training is based on something, and I do want to get back to having fun. So the training is based on something that you're very familiar with and I'm not familiar with. The training is based on one word, and the word is simply cool. You guys know it. Say it with me. Ready? Cool. That's kind of fun. Do it again. Cool. See, right? You guys know what cool is. You look cool, you dress cool, you talk cool, you dance cool, you TikTok cool, you know all the stuff that's cool, right? I don't know what's cool, but I do know this. Cool always changes. What was cool 10 years ago isn't cool today, and what's cool today won't be cool 10 years from now. And if you don't believe me, go home and look at old school pictures of yourselves. Right? I know. I was looking through a photo album with my mom. This isn't I'm telling you this is a true story. I'm looking through a photo album, not like an iPad photo album, like one of those photo albums with the lacy cover on the outside and the plastic pages inside and all the pictures are twisted and yellowed, right? So I'm looking through this photo album with my mom, and I find a picture of myself wearing these, it's kind of hard for me to talk about, these purple plaid bell-bottom pants, right? I have these purple plaid bell-bottom pants on. I looked at my mom, I said, hey, did you let me go out in public with those pants on? She's like, honey, you love those pants, right? I turned the page, I'm wearing an Easter suit. My Easter suit was blue over here, orange over here, orange over here. I don't know what material it's made out of, but I'm sure it wouldn't burn, right? These pants are wrinkle-free. That suit was flame retardant. I said to my mom, I go, here's a question. Did you ever love me? I couldn't believe that she would let me wear this stuff. And she's like, you loved it. I also, hairstyles are another way how cool changes. When I was younger, I had thick, naturally curly hair. Like I had an afro, right? I'm not exaggerating. It was thick and naturally curly. And nobody teased me because a lot of the dudes I ran with wore their hair the same way. And like back in the day, we all had afros. Or we would shave we would have it short on one side, long on the other. We would actually shave emblems in our hair back in the day. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like our favorite sports team or superhero emblems. Actually, I have the Batman emblem in my hair right now. I'd like to share it with you. Here we go. I know, right? Like that's, some of you are probably laughing at me right now. Some of you are probably like, aw, he's bald. That's sad. He's a sad bald man, right? That's not even the saddest part. So cool always changes. So we got hairstyles, we got clothing styles. But probably the best example is something I was involved in back in the day, and it's dances. Like dances change nonstop. And I was involved in something, some of you may or may not believe it. Do you guys know what breakdancing is? Okay, so would you believe me if I told you I was involved in breakdancing? Yeah, I wouldn't either. But here's the thing. I didn't do that stuff on the floor because you could like get hurt or dirty. So I did the standing up stuff. We called it popping back in the day. And so that was something that I really loved. And I guess if you want, I can show you some old school popping from back in the day. Or we could just keep moving on. We're cool? Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get a little music, help me out so I can show you some old school popping from back in the day. That's it. All right, good. Obviously, these are dumb, stupid, goofy little examples. Not so funny when you see it in real life, right? In real life, I went to my 10-year high school reunion. I went back and I decided to go to my 1996. I was going to my 10-year high school reunion. I walked in and I saw this dude that back in the day was one of my best friends. He's one of the first people. I'm talking way back, like kindergarten. So Joe and I were best friends all the way through elementary school. By the time we got to middle school, Joe started getting into some stuff that I knew if I got into it, I'd be in really big trouble. I knew this because my parents said, you're going to be in really big trouble, right? So he got shoplifted a few times. They said I can't hang out with him anymore. So we're going to high school. By high school, Joe's into everything. Smoking this and that, drinking this and that, using this and that, skipping this and that. And a lot of people wish I could tell you that Joe had this really rough life, but I'd be lying. Like, Joe was incredibly popular. Like Joe even had Joe disciples. You know what I'm talking about? Like, if Joe didn't tell you what he did over the weekend, these guys would be like, Joe, man, he's crazy. Tell you all these stories about Joe, okay? So we graduate, go on with our lives, come back to our 10-year high school reunion. He's one of the first people I see, and we start talking about kindergarten, Africa, all the fun stuff. And then finally he says, well, what do you do now? I said, man, I got the greatest job in the world. I get to travel around. I talk to young people about making good decisions and treating each other with respect. He goes, you travel? I'm like, yeah. He's like, where you been? I said, everywhere, man. Italy, Cayman Islands, Germany, Japan, all the hot spots, Hawaii, Florida, Norwich, Connecticut, all the fancy areas. And he goes, that's amazing. He goes, who do you work for? And I said, well, I work for this program called Youth to Youth. He goes, wait. You work for Youth to Youth? I said, yeah. He goes, weren't you in that back when you were in high school? And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's weird. How did you even know that? Like, how did you know I was in Youth to Youth back in high school? And he goes, so now you talk to young people about making good decisions, treating with respect, but you're already doing this stuff back in high school. I said, yeah. And he's like, let me ask you one more question. I said, what is it? He goes, why didn't you ever talk to me? Why didn't you ever talk to me? And I was like, dude, you're Joe. You know what I mean? Ty, Joe, Ty, I'm like, dude, what was I going to say to you? I mean, you're incredibly popular. I'm like, you okay? He's like, yeah, it's all right now. He goes, but I went through a lot of stuff. So we talked a little bit more. I felt stupid. I said goodbye to him. And I walked to the other side of the auditorium where I saw these guys that back in the day were like Joe disciples. Like, they're the ones that would always brag and tell you, Joe, man, he's crazy, man. I started talking to these guys. And I say, hey, guys, I just saw Joe. Joe's over there. Like, nah, man, you want to go talk to him? I'm like, nah, man, nah, shut up. I'm like, no, your friend Joe from back in high school. Nah, man, dude's got a problem. All he wants to do is drink and talk about high school. All Joe wants to do is drink and talk about high school. See, cool always changes. The same guys 10 years before, Joe, man, he's crazy, man. 10 years later, Joe, he's got a problem. Cool always changes, and every single day I see young people making decisions based on what's cool right now, and they can sacrifice what's cool for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. What I'm challenging you to do is think about how the decisions you make today can impact your future, can impact a few years from now, and find that strength and courage to make sure that you're staying consistent with what you believe, what you care about, what matters for you, and then make decisions based on what's good for you for 10, 20, 30, 40. It helps you get to those places, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Don't worry about being cool. Cool always changes. So we talked about training, and the training being based on cool, and once you're trained long enough, you can become trapped. It's like they caught this bear. They put him in this little 10 by 10 cage at the zoo, this little tiny bear. And after a few years, this bear grew up into this, a big bear. It's science, right? So you have this huge bear now living in this tiny 10 by 10 cage. And the people of the zoo said, this is crazy. We got this huge bear living in this 10 by 10 cage for all these years. We need to build him an outdoor facility. So they raised all this money. They built this huge, perfect, gorgeous outdoor facility with trees and creeks and caves and grass, everything that a bear would really dig, right? And they say, we're going to release the bear out into this gorgeous place. And they call the media in to come and record everything that's going to be happening and report on it back to the community. And they do that, they tranquilize the bear, they fly him in, they sit him down in the middle of this gorgeous place. And the bear begins to stir a little bit, and he starts to wake up. People start taking notes, cameras start to go. Bear stands up, everybody gets really quiet, kind of like you right now. And the bear starts walking around over here a little bit. He stops, looks around, back over here a little bit, stops, looks around. After a couple hours, they realize the bear's just walking around in this little 10 by 10 square. Even though he's got this whole new world of opportunity around him, this is all he knows is safe, secure, and cool for him. And I know so often people are thinking, yeah, Ty, he's a bear, but we're people, right? But we can be deceived. We can begin to believe that what people tell us matters. We can be put in that box or that cage, not physically, but in here. And we can actually get trapped by this concept of being cool. So how do we break out of it? How do we make sure to be able to find our way to the things that really matter, or the things that are good to us, or the things that can help us 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now? The first thing we have to do is be an example. We have to start showing and talking about the things that really matter. So the first thing, if you want to begin to make a change in your community, it works like this. All you have to do is this. Put your hand like this, circle with 3 fingers. So everybody do that. Just take a second. Everybody, cool. Now all I want you to do is just go ahead now and just place that on your chin. All right, now, where did you put your hand? For those of you who have it on your cheek, it's a real simple message. I said put it on your chin, but all of us put it on their cheek. Why? Because I did. Right? And the lesson is people don't do what we say, they do what we do. If you want to make an impact, if you want to make a difference, if you want to create change in your community, we have to demonstrate the behavior that we wish to see. And the trickiest and most challenging part is we have to do it even when it's difficult. See, everybody can do the right thing when it's easy. What I'm challenging you to think about is how can I do the right thing even when it's difficult? How can I do the right thing for me? How can I do what's best for me even when it's difficult? And by demonstrating that over and over, you're showing other people then that's the way to go. That's one thing that you can do to make a difference. The last thing is this, and I would normally bring up a volunteer right here, and it's a real simple thing that I would challenge you to think about. And I'd have them come up and I'd say, real simple question. I'd say, hey, all I need to do is, could you just go ahead and try and shake my hand? 100% of the time, that person shakes my hand and goes back to their seat, and we all applaud, right? We all clap and cheer, and we're excited. And then I get to talk to them a little bit more, and then when I come back and I say, what did I just ask that person to do? And every one of them says, well, you asked him to shake your hand, right? And I'm like, no, what did I ask him to do is try and shake my hand. Each one of them comes up and actually did it. Either they're going to do it or they're not going to do it. There is no try. And I started thinking about this in middle school. I went to Hannah J. Asher Middle School, Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Building is over 100 years old, built out of brick. And on the side it says the words, knowledge is power. Right above the front door for over 100 years, chiseled in stone, knowledge is power. And when I was younger, I would read that, and it made sense to me. Knowledge is power. Here's what I found out years later. Knowledge isn't power. It's potential power. It's what we choose to do with the things that we've learned where the true power lies. Everything that I've talked about in here to you today, everything we've talked about today, you probably already know, all of it. But until you put it into practice, and until you choose to demonstrate it, and until you choose to share it with others, then we don't have that power. And you can say, I'll try, I'll try, I'll try. Because the old saying goes, if at first you don't succeed, try again. I say, if at first you don't succeed, do it again, and keep doing it till you get it right. And with the support I know you get from Norwich Prevention Council and from the school district making this effort to make this possible for you, I know you have the support there. And I happen to know a number of the people that work with that coalition, and I know you have people there that will support you in making that choice, continuing that choice, and being that example for so many others in your community. Thank you so much, Norwich Public Schools, for letting me be a part of this. Thank you so much for letting me be back in your school, even though I'm not really in your school. But I really enjoyed the day, and I hope you do too. I'll be seeing you again, I believe, in January for a live chat. So we'll set something up that I'll be able to sit down and actually talk to you guys virtually, but live, so you can have questions and we can have a whole discussion. And I look forward to that so much more than even this. So thank you guys very much, and have a great rest of the day.